Hello everyone, it's Karina with Karina Loves to Plan. Welcome back to my channel. I am here for inks 11 through 15 of 15 inks in 30 days. And you can see here on the side what I have done for inks 1 through 10 so far. And I'm really loving this series. Although I'm not doing 30 inks over 30 days, the 15 inks over 30 days is satisfying, but also sustainable enough for me to get through for the next 30 days. All right, let's get started. The first pen and ink combination is going to be Colorverse. Let's see here, get my camera to focus. Colorverse Giant Potato with my Leonardo Momento Zero in the Via Latea. I'm going to swatch it with my Speedball B nib. You can get these on Amazon in different sizes as well. I like the zero size because of how big it shows up on this paper. Look at that. It's such a light ink, but I'm looking forward to being able to use this in a pen that matches it. Look at that shading. Beautiful. And then I'm going to use my Kakimori stainless steel nib to just write the name here. So this is Colorverse Giant Potato, and do a line swatch or a line width. Lovely. And then do the same here. I really love doing the line swatches with the stainless steel nib. I think I just get more coverage than I ever did with the brass. Lovely. So the ink is Colorverse Giant Potato, and the pen is my Leonardo Momento Zero in the Via Latea, and this has an extra fine nib. And I'm just going to do a few figure eights. So far, really enjoying that. Now I've placed a little bit of the ink sample into my little palette here so that I can use my number 2 size paintbrush to paint on the Tomoe River paper. And then we have Rhodia. Oops, too much. The Endless Regalia. Cosmo. Oops. A little paintbrush hair on there. The onion skin. I love the onion skin paper. I love the way that it curls. Yamamoto Bank, which I got at the San Francisco Pen Show, and the bank papers. I really like seeing the way that these, even with a simple brown ink, the way that it shows the differences. So now I'm going to go ahead and paint a little rose. I like doing this because it just shows off the shading of the ink so well. And then when you add a little bit of water to the ink, you get a whole bunch of different effects with it. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of water because it's already so light. Yeah, see, look at how light that is. So pretty. And I find rose is actually a really great calming exercise because it's a light pressure, lots of pressure, light pressure, lot of pressure. And then just for fun, adding a little bit more of the ink in certain places here. Oh, love that. So here I am drawing out the grid for my Zentangle using my Michaels ruler. Once again, I got this about 7 or 8 years ago from Michaels, and I don't know where you can find it again. And then here I'm going to go ahead and start drawing out my Zentangle. This one is just a bunch of straight lines, and the shape that you get when you combine all of these together is really cool. But you also have to get used to the fact that your Zentangle is not going to be perfect. It's all about the practice and all about the bigger picture. And I'm looking forward to what this looks like once it's done. So there is the finished Zentangle, and you know, the perfectionist in me sees a few spots where it is not lined up, but that's okay. I love the overall effect and how in those spots there you can really see the shading when all of the ink gathers in one spot. But I really like this brown, although I feel like it's already super similar to something I already have. But let's take a look through my browns here. I was originally thinking that this might be similar to, because it's kind of like a pinky brown, right? So maybe it's a little similar to, I was thinking Ferris Wheel Press Oyster Hour, but where is my Oyster Hour? Oh, come on. Really? I'm a little warmer than Majestic Maple Syrup. Like there's Giant Potato. Where's my Oyster Hour? Yeah, because Giant Potato is more like has more of a pink undertone to it versus I think Oyster Hour is a little bit more, yeah, oh, there it is. Oyster Hour is a little bit redder in tone. But when we look at the writing sample, yeah, it looks like a little redder or warmer in tone, and this is cooler in tone. Excuse me. So I thought that I had a similar brown to this already, but I guess I don't really. It's beautiful. I really like it. So then look at just the shading between the different papers too. That's lovely. Overall, a lovely combination. I think this matches perfectly. I do love a good brown ink that looks brown even in extra fine nibs. So I gave the ink a 10 because it's beautiful, the flow a 9, and the comfort level a 9. I don't think it's necessarily an ink that I'm going to add to my collection because I already have so many brown inks, but it's a beautiful ink and I'm so glad that I got to try it. So that's Colorverse Giant Potato with my Leonardo Momento Zero Violetea. All right, now we have ink number 12. Oh my gosh, my brain. Ink and pen and ink pairing number 12 is Taccia Sabimidori, and I'm going to have it in my Mayfair Pens Noldor in, oh my gosh, Valinor, I believe it's called. Why do I never remember the name of that? It's so bad. But I've tried Taccia Sabimidori before, and I didn't appreciate it for what it was and for the complexities that it has. Because when it goes down, it looks very similar to Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukio, but then it has some beautiful chromo shading properties, which are going to come out when I do the different paper swatches. But I'm really enjoying this ink so far. You can see a little bit of red sheen forming there too. I apologize for the zoom here in the focus. Taccia Sabimidori. Oh, and now is the time Lucy decides that she's gonna go out. Lovely, but look at that. It's turning like a really lovely color there. And then I love being able to test out the ink in different ways because you can really see the different characteristics. Lovely. So we have Taccia Sabimidori, and this is in my Mayfair Pens. Now I have to double check. Noldor, Valinor, and the ink so far has a really great flow, but the sheen is kind of taking over it, which, if you guys know anything about me, I'm not a big sheen fan just because of my light sensitivity. I've placed a couple drops of the sample onto my little palette there, and now I'm going to paint using my number 2 size brush onto my Hobonichi A6 Hone. I really like doing this because it's definitely going to be a different effect than writing with the pen every single day, but it's still so nice to see those complexities. So I'm swatching on Rhodia paper, which Rhodia paper was actually the first paper that I used before Hobonichi, and it was just going to be my testing paper, and it's actually the paper that I do every single ink swatch on. Like every ink that I've ever tried is on a piece of Rhodia paper. And then I've got Regalia and Cosmo, and then the 3 down here, Onion Skin, Yamamoto Bank, and Bank. And look at how much on the Tomoe River paper, how much greener that looks. And actually on the Rhodia, really, really green. And then on the Yamamoto Bank, a little bit grayer too. So when you do the paper comparisons, there really is a huge difference in those bigger swatches. So let's do the rose. So with the rose, I start with some of the ink on the very tip of my brush and do a couple of C curves in the center and then around. And literally the rose is just a bunch of C curves with different amounts of pressure applied onto the brush. So I'm adding a little water here. And this is the great thing about inks, is that so many of them, their properties really come out when you add water to them. That's why I love painting with fountain pen inks. Yes, they're definitely going to have differences to regular watercolor, but I think that's why I enjoy it so much, because they're so interesting. Love that. You can see like the different tones of the blue and the teal in here. Lovely. So I'm drawing out the grid for my Zentangles using my ruler. And there's something about just measuring something out like this that's really satisfying. And then the Zentangle that I chose really was just straight lines in a triangle, similar to what I did yesterday, but on a smaller scale. And I really like these ones with just the repeating lines over and over again to create a bigger pattern. And there is the completed Zentangle with Taccia Sabimidori. It's really cool how different it looks on all of these papers, but it is a bit of a sheen machine type of ink. I really like how it looks in the Zentangle, but you can tell it is a sheening ink, which unfortunately is a deal breaker for me because I have such light sensitivity, and sheening ink for me can really set off a headache or a migraine. So unfortunately, I love the base color, but the sheen is what's going to throw me off here. I cannot fault this ink in flow or base color because it's beautiful, but I cannot handle sheen. The pen is lovely to write with, but I'm not a fan of the ink, unfortunately. So I gave the ink a 5 because the base color is beautiful, but the sheen is just not doing it for me. The flow is a 9, and the comfort level of the Mayfair pens a 9. Yeah, I guess that's one of my deal breakers, are sheening inks. And I hate saying that because I know so many people love sheening inks, but unfortunately it's not for me. So that's Taccia Sabimidori in my Mayfair pens, Noldor Valinor. The next pen and ink pairing is Colorverse Icy Moon with my Zodiac Pen & Co. in the Abalone. I've had this pen for almost 2 years now, and I still can't get over just this beautiful, beautiful resin. Okay, anyway, let's go. Here I am getting so easily distracted. Okay, so I'm going to take my Speedball B nib here, and this ink has a tiny bit of shimmer, so I want to make sure that I capture all of that. And take a little bit of my Speedball B nib. Look at that, isn't it so pretty? And it matches really well with this pen. Oh, look at that. Whoa, don't roll over it. So dignified and distinguished. So let's write with the pen here. This is Colorverse Icy Moon. And I really do like Colorverse shimmer inks. I think they're very well behaved. And let's make sure I get some here to do a quick line width. Oh, look at that color. I am a big fan of these kind of grayish blues. I don't know what it is, but I really enjoy this tone. Beautiful. Then, cleaning that off, writing the name of the ink, so Colorverse Icy Moon, and then this is, woo, in my Zodiac Pen Co. This is the Virgo model and the abalone. And this has an extra fine nib. And it's a very fine, extra fine nib, but I love it. And here I have my A6 hone, and I put a little bit of the ink into my little palette here so that I don't add any contaminants to the sample vial. And I love swatching on all the different papers. I find it relaxing, but also some of the surprises that you get when you swatch on the different papers. I mean, I don't know enough about the science of making different papers and everything like that, but I love the effect of different inks on different papers. That's just super fun for me. So now let's do the roses, or the rose, one rose singular. And then here we go, painting the rose. Start off with just the ink at the tip here and go with the C curves. The ever famous C curves and the light pressure, lots of pressure, light pressure, lots of pressure, little pressure. Look at that. I really love how, I'm going to add a little water here so you can see how this can really show off the shading, but then adding water can show off any chromo shading effects that the ink may have. Oh, probably not my best petal. That's okay. Oh, I love it. And I love this practice too. I've done these roses in my journal, and that one looks like really wide, but I love the practice of it. Love it. And there is the finished Zentangle. This one took a while because look at all the detail in that. But this was so fun. And I mean, the shimmer was, I guess, mostly consistent, but it's such a lovely color. And then you could see in the areas where the shimmer pooled, it really makes it stand out. It almost makes it look like shadowing, unintentional shadowing, but still really pretty. And then the color looks pretty similar across all of the papers here, which I'm a fan of. I love grayish blue inks, and then to add shimmer to it, fantastic. For a shimmer ink, this performed beautifully in this extra fine nib. No hard starts or clogging, and the shimmer was mostly consistent. So I gave the ink a 10 because it's stunning, the flow a 10, and the comfort level of the pen a 9. I'm a big fan of this tone of blue, and then when you add shimmer to it, it's like, course, yes, I absolutely love it. And it was a great match for my Zodiac Pen Co. Virgo Abalone. So that was Colorverse Icy Moon. The next pen and ink combination is Rohrer and Klingner Magenta, and I have it in my Leonardo Furore Aqua Petra. And this is a gorgeous pen. I got this secondhand off of Reddit, and I love it. And it's one that I've been asked about actually a few times. And that one was, originally purchased from Applebaum. So the nib was tuned and smoothed by Annabelle, who is no longer at Applebaum. So, oh, I forget how far I have to go with these. Okay, there. But I do like Rohrer and Klingner inks. I have 2 others in my collection that I use, and they're lovely. And they're so well priced, these inks. So this is Rohrer and Klingner Magenta. I have Rohrer and Klingner Alt Gold Grün as well as Alt Bordeaux, and I love both. So now doing a line swatch with my stainless steel nib. Oops. There we go. I love doing the line widths with the stainless steel nib way better than I ever did with the brass nib. I don't know why, but I also can write finer with the stainless steel. Beautiful. Just cleaning off my nib. And the ink is Rohrer. Oh, this fine nib is so smooth. Klingner Magenta. And the pen is my Leonardo Furore in Aqua Petra with a fine nib. Beautiful. This is always so fun to write with. It's just so beautifully smooth. So now I'm going to paint a little bit here in my Hobonichi A6 Hone. I'm so glad that I decided to purchase this. I purchased this off of Amazon, so this is the English version, and it is the 2024 Tomoe River paper, so keep that in mind. But 1, I liked the cover, and 2, I don't need the dated pages. I just wanted a place that I could do these fun ink explorations with the paper swatches and the Zentangles, and it's become a lovely little practice for me. Not always daily, I don't always get to it daily, but it's just fun to be able to do something with the inks other than just write with them. So now let's go ahead and do the rose. And I actually really like the consistency of having roses for every ink exploration, although I think next month I'm going to try different florals here just to see, well, just to improve my skills as well. So I've added a little water to the brush, and it's okay if the strokes do run into each other. You get a little bit of a bleed, but whoops, that one went off to the side there. But this is the thing about loose watercolor florals, is that they're not meant to be a realistic depiction of florals. They're supposed to be whimsical and fun. And I definitely get that with these. Oh, look at the different shading in here. Lovely. There is the finished Zentangle, another one inspired by Varnika Carney on Instagram. And I did add a couple of extra leaves in there just to take up some more space. And it made it a little bit more difficult because this fine nib, also, this ink was also quite wet. So a little bit more wetness or flow than I normally like for something as fine as this, but it was still really fun to work with. I loved this combination, but I also love how this ink looks on all of these papers. It's actually generally similar across all of them, which for me is great because that means that, you know, the way that it reacts to all the papers is pretty consistent. I loved this combo. You have a super smooth fine nib, which was tuned by Annabelle at Applebaum, and you have above average flow equals lovely. So I gave the ink a 10, the flow a 10, and the comfort level a 10. So yes, 10s across the board for this combination. I love this pen. Like, just look at how beautiful that pen is. And I feel like I could match almost any ink with any of the colors in that resin. So that is Rohrer and Klingner Magenta with my Leonardo Furore Aqua Petra. The last pen and ink pairing for 15 inks over 30 days is Van Dieman's Wine Glass Bay, and I have it in a Jinhao 10. This is in the dark blue gradient. Yes, another Jinhao. I actually really enjoy using these. So let's go ahead and swatch this. But also, it's a blue pen, so I'm using a blue ink, which I don't have many of. So I'm gonna use what I've got. Look at how bright that is. I used it for my work notes today. It was just fun to use. It was fun to click the pen and use the ink in my work notes because it was quick. I didn't have to worry about, see, look at how quick that is. I didn't have to worry about uncapping the pen or anything like that. And what I did before I inked this pen was I used Vanessa Langton's trick to add silicone grease around the edge of the door there, and it seems to be working because the color of the ink in the pen hasn't changed. It hasn't gotten darker over time due to evaporation, so it's working with this pen. And the line swatch here, oops, not a great one just because of the angle of the paper, but gonna be better in here. Look at that. I know it's just a line width and line swatch, but I love it. And then the figure eights. Just cleaning that off here. So this is Van Dieman's Wine Glass Bay in my Jinhao 10 in the dark blue gradient, and it's such a smooth nib. I love it. Love it. So painting this in my notebook. One thing that motivates me to fill this in for every pen and ink combination is the fact that it's going to be so fun to flip through at the end of the year. Although for the month of May, I am going to change out that either the Cosmo paper or the Regalia paper, or both, because I have some Rohrer paper that was sent to me by a pen friend, and I want to start testing that out in my paper swatches too. Like that. I love how the onion skin just curls up like that. I think that's really cool. But between these papers, it actually looks pretty consistent throughout them. Not too much difference. So now we'll go ahead and do the rose. I love this little practice because doing the rose doesn't take me a whole ton of time. I'm doing this in real time here on camera, so it takes me maybe like a minute, 2 minutes. Doesn't take long. It's prepping the camera and prepping the ink and all of that that takes the time. But when you actually get down to painting, the practice of painting doesn't actually take time. It's so fun. Whoops, that one didn't turn out well, but that's great. Sometimes I feel like if I'm not loose with the brush, that's when the rose gets a little bit wonky. But even if it is a little wonky, it works because it's loose. It's loose flowers with watercolor or ink. And there is the finished Zentangle. And as I was doing this, because I sat down and did this all last night, I realized that yes, there is actually a little bit of evaporation happening, because if you look at the beginning of the Zentangle, the blue ink is darker. And then as you go on, the ink goes back to its correct tone and shade. So there is a little bit of evaporation happening in that Jinhao 10, but otherwise the ink is just stunning. I love the way that that looks. This is a beautiful ink, but it had a bit of an evaporation issue happening in the Jinhao 10. But overall, no other issues. Beautiful blue, but I don't need to buy this in a bottle. The ink I gave a 9, the flow a 9, and the comfort level of the Jinhao 10 an 8. While I did give the comfort level of this pen only an 8, it's because it's one of those quick draw pens for me. I do like writing with this, but it's one that I can't do very, very long writing sessions with. But otherwise, it's just one of those quick draw pens that I just love being able to take work notes for, or a quick Zentangle. Well, I say quick Zentangle, but Zentangles are more longer writing sessions. But anyway, that is Van Diemen's Wine Glass Bay in my Jinhao 10 Dark Blue Gradient. So there are inks 11 through 15 of my 15 inks in 30 days. And I'm really happy with the overall result and all of the different inks that I got to try. If I look at all of the combinations, my favorites would probably have to be, and I actually feel like I should refer back to my previous ones, but I really love Sailor Ink Studio 273. I really like Sailor Ink Studio 373. Lavender Coral was a beautiful one. And actually, I had a good time with Robert Oster Van Ness Free Spirit. I think the only one that really stood out for me that I wasn't a big fan of was probably Taccia Sabimidori. Sheening inks, unfortunately, don't work well with me, and it's it's a beautiful ink, but the sheen is the deal breaker for me. All right, but that is it for me. Thank you all so much for watching this series of 15 inks in 30 days. And if you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and have yourselves a great day.